Nigel Farage, who's on track incredibly without really an organised political base. He's leading in all the polls. He wants to stop the boats. Here's Nigel Farage.
We will stop the boats, and we will detain and deport those who illegally break into our country, doing what nearly every normal country around the rest of the world does. You cannot come here illegally and stay. We will stop the boats within 2 weeks of winning government.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's easy to say that. It's actually not easy to say stop the boats. You get criticised just for saying it, but it's even more difficult to actually do it. And you reported on the weekend, Sophie, that he's been getting the best advice because he's actually been meeting with Tony Abbott to try and work out how he can actually put a plan together that will stop the boats.
Well, Chris, look, the pair have known each other for some time. Obviously, Tony Abbott was extremely successful in stopping the boats. I often get asked here about how the Australian government, when Mr Abbott was Prime Minister, how did he do it? I was at the Reform UK conference on the weekend, and many people were talking about this issue. It seemed to be high on the agenda in Birmingham of how do we stop this illegal migrant problem. But Chris, just here in front of the Daily Mail, there's a headline here, 30,000 reasons why Labor won't stop the boats. Now, they've had over 1,000 people arrive on Saturday here, one of the largest numbers of illegal migrants in any given day. This number, 30,000, is the highest for some years up until this point now. They cannot get control of it. Nigel Farage says if he wins government, he will stop it within 2 weeks. He's now walked that back and said, when legislations change, he will stop this within 2 weeks. So he's had to be careful around his wording here, Chris, because people will hold him to that when he's saying if he wins the election, he'll stop it within 2 weeks. Now he's saying it depends on various legislation being introduced that enables him to do so. Indeed.
I think he could do bugger all in 2 weeks. He will need the legislative changes, you would think, as we found out here in Australia. Just quickly, he's doing so well, Nigel Farage and his reform movement, that some of the Conservatives say they should amalgamate with him.
Well, they are indeed, Chris. I spoke to Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, who was a former House of Commons, a Tory minister under Boris Johnson on the weekend, and he said that he hopes that the Tories and Reform at the next election could unite and form similar to the coalition in Australia with the Liberals and Nationals. But I'll tell you one thing, Chris, no one is laughing at Reform now. They only have 4 seats in the House of Commons. There is not meant to be a general election till 2029, but I can assure you that every political party is taking Nigel Farage and Reform extremely seriously because they are dominating in the polls and they are continuing to set the news agenda. And as we know, Chris, Labor had a major overhaul of its, various ministers last week. So they are in damage control as well.
Indeed. All over it as usual, Sophie. Thanks for joining us. Sophie Elsworth there live in London. There's a lesson there for Susan Lee and the coalition, isn't there? Because Nigel Farage knows what he stands for and he enunciates it clearly and strongly. That's what you got to do from opposition.